to this SciDocs instructional video on how to automatically install and deploy Solaris on SPARC in the cloud. This video assumes that you already have an account at SciDocs, so if you don't already have one, you may want to go to scidocs.com and click on the account link in the upper right hand corner, and then in a pull-down menu will be displayed and you can click on register, and that will allow you to register for a new account at SciDocs. For the purpose of this video, I am going to use an account that is already established for the purpose of making videos, and so I am going to go to account and log in, and I am going to enter the email address of video@scidocs.com. You would of course enter your own email address that you used when you created your account at SciDocs. And I will enter the password associated with that video@scidocs.com email address. And log in. So once you're logged in to your account at SciDocs, you will have a home page similar to this one. Now this is the demonstration account for the purpose of this video, and so you will see that there are no invoices due, no services, no quotes, no support tickets. So nothing has been established on this account yet. And we're going to use this as the demo. When you log into your account, this may appear differently. You may have services and support tickets and invoices and quotes and all of that sort of thing. But we are going to start from a fresh account that has nothing associated with it yet. Now if I go to the menu on the left hand side of the page, you'll see there is services, billing, support, and open ticket. We're going to go to services and we're going to order new services, and that will display a default screen which comes up as IBM AIX LPARs and allows you to order short-term or long-term LPARs for IBM AIX. We're going to go to the menu on the right-hand side and select Solaris VMs. And this page will display 4 options for ordering Solaris VMs. The top 2 are Solaris on SPARC, the one-time short-term lease, which starts at $20 a day, and the Solaris on SPARC monthly reoccurring, which starts at $300 a month. Under that, you'll see that there are also a couple of options for Solaris on Intel for the short-term and monthly reoccurring. This video will just be concerned with Solaris on SPARC. So the difference between the one-time short-term and the monthly reoccurring is the one-time short-term does not automatically reoccur when the lease expires, whereas the monthly reoccurring, it automatically renews every month until you cancel the VM. So this one the one-time short-term will automatically expire, and you won't be charged anything after it expires. The monthly reoccurring reoccurs every month and you're charged every month. For the purpose of this video, we're going to deploy a Solaris on SPARC one-time short-term lease. So I'm going to click the order button associated with that option, and it will display a product configuration page where you are allowed to select the configurable options that you would like to use for your Solaris on SPARC VM. And the first option, configurable option, is the amount of time you want to lease the system. And the amount of time you can select is 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, a week, 2 week, 3 weeks, or a month. We're just going to go with 1 day. And then you can select the operating system version that you want to use for your VM, and the options are Solaris 11.1, .2, .3, or .4, or you can choose Solaris 11 U11. I'm sorry, Solaris 10 U11. So we offer several versions of Solaris 11 and 2 versions of Solaris 10. Then you can select the amount of memory, you can select the amount of processors or the number of processors you want your VM to have, which is 2 or 4. We're going to use 2. And then you can select the amount of memory that you want associated with your VM. And the options are 4, 8, 12, and 16 gigabytes. We're going to choose the minimum option here and just use 4 gig. And then you can choose the amount of storage you want associated with your Solaris. And the storage options are 50, 100, and 250 gig. We're going to choose 50. And then we're going to press the continue button to go to the next screen. Next will be displayed the review and checkout screen, where it displays the configurable options that you chose to use with your leased Solaris on SPARC VM. And from this page you can either continue shopping, or you can edit or remove any items in the shopping cart. In this instance, we're only going to order the one Solaris on SPARC VM, so we will hit the checkout button to continue to the next page. On the checkout screen, it will display which account is going to be used to lease the VM and the payment method associated with leasing the VM, and then it will also allow you to enter any notes that you may want to enter for special instructions associated with the VM or descriptions that you may want to have on this VM. Then you've got to check the checkbox associated with the terms of service and hit the complete order button. Next will be displayed the order confirmation page, and it will display the order number associated with the order you just placed for a Solaris on SPARC VM. From here you can continue on to your services, to the page that shows you your list of services, by clicking this button titled Continue to My Services. And on this page you will see that we have one item in our services list, that Solaris on SPARC VM that we just ordered, and we can see that it is in a pending state. Now that means it is in the process of building out, and it will take 10 to 15 minutes to create and configure the Solaris on SPARC VM. So I'm going to pause this video until this VM has completed the build out process, and then we'll come back and go from there. Alright, I'm restarting the video again after the Solaris on SPARC build out, and you can see on the My Products and Services page that the Solaris on SPARC VM that we just deployed is in an active status, and it is ready for user access. So the next question becomes, how do I access the new Solaris on SPARC VM? Well, during the build-out process, a support ticket was created, and you were sent an email when that deployment was complete with instructions on how to access the connection information. And what you do is you access that connection information through your support tickets. So if we go over here to the left-hand side menu and click on Support, there is a section called Tickets. And so I'm going to click on Tickets, and it's going to give us a list of your support tickets, or the support tickets associated with the user that deployed that VM. And you'll see a list of all your support tickets here. So we see one here. We only have one support ticket in our list currently for this demo account, and that support ticket is titled SIDOC Solaris 11.4 on SPARC System Connection Information. And this is the ticket that contains the instructions on how to access your VM. So we're going to click on that. In that connection information, you will see something that looks similar to the following. you'll see the user with whom that VM is associated, and then it gives you a list of information here. And this information is the LPAR name, the host name associated with your VM, or how to connect to that, the host name to connect to over the internet, a connection port. It also gives you a randomly generated username and a randomly generated password. And so if you were using SSH to connect to your VM, an SSH client, you would use an SSH command line that looks something similar to that. So you would use a -P option for the port number and provide it with this connection port number. And you would use the username and then this host name. So here's the username that you're using here, and here is the host name that you would use with that SSH client command. And then you would provide this randomly generated password to log in. Now you want to be aware that the only firewall port that is open to your Solaris VM is the SSH port. So if you need other ports open, you're going to need to put that in the notes section when you deploy the VM, or you can send us a support ticket. Just reply to this connection information and tell us which network ports you need open besides the SSH ports. Now you should be able to connect to your VM and transfer files and do all of those sorts of things over port 22 without any additional network ports being open. But if you do have additional network ports you need open, let us know. Reply to this ticket or put them in the notes section when you deploy the VM. Now there is an additional page of information you need to be aware of, and so we're going to go back to the left-hand side menu, go to Services, and go to My Services. And if we look at this VM that was just deployed, you'll see that there is a Manage button over on the right-hand side, and there will be a Manage button associated with each service that you have deployed. And so we're going to click on that Manage button, and it will display a page that contains additional information. And it also contains some functions that you can execute associated with that VM. For example, you can reboot the server from here. If you get locked out for some reason and you need to reboot the server, you can hit this Reboot Server button and it will reboot that server associated with this service. So it would reboot this Solaris on SPARC VM. You can also extend your server lease. So when if you run out of time and you want to extend your current lease, you can tell it to lease for another day, 2, 3 weeks. You can do it for up to a month. So this function allows you to extend your current active server lease. If the lease expires, and I'll explain the difference between expiring and terminating in just a moment, but if the lease expires, then there will be a renew function displayed in this Manage page where you could renew an expired lease. You can also archive the server, and there is a knowledge base article on what that means, so you would need to go look at the knowledge base. I'll show you where that link is in a moment. The knowledge base will allow you to will provide you with information about archiving servers and various other services that we provide. This Manage page also provides you with this information about how this VM was configured. So it gives you a list of the configurable options that you selected when you deployed the lease, and it also gives you information such as the expire date and the terminate date. Now on this particular VM, we only leased it for a day, and so this expire date is telling me the date and time at which that current lease, that current one-day lease, is going to expire. The terminate date is telling me when the lease will be terminated. So I can extend the lease up until this expire date. After this expire date, I would have to renew the lease if I wanted to keep using the system, after the terminate date and time, then the lease becomes unrecoverable. So you would not be able to extend or renew the lease after the terminate date. And you can see here there is a 1-day time difference between the expire date and the terminate date. And the reason it's 1 day is because we only leased it for a day. If it were a week, this expire date, the difference between the expire date and the terminate date would be a week. And in fact, the longest grace period, and that's what we call this, the difference between the expire date and the terminate date, is the grace period. And the grace period, the longest grace period is a week. So if you lease it for a week or more, you get a week grace period to renew the lease if so desired. And that is it on this video. So I was going to show you the knowledge base. So if we go to support, here's the knowledge base, and you can go to the How Do I section. It provides you with a variety of information on how do you do certain things within the environment, within the cloud environment at SciDocs. You can also see some more instructional videos, and the archive services are explained here in the knowledge base. So archiving fees and policy. It tells you all about what the charges are if you want to archive it, and the difference between the expire date and the terminate date. So that's it. Appreciate you listening and watching. Thank you very much.